Hello. Hi. It's really great to see everybody here. My name is Lee Jackson. I am the Director of Accessibility and EDI Programming here at People's Light. Let me extend to you a huge People's Light welcome. We are very glad to see everybody here. We are going to have a great conversation about this wonderful play, about Black education, about Black leadership, and about the HBCUs that have nurtured both Black education and leadership. We will be filming this, just so you know, and our goal is to be done by 4:15. So we've got a lot to do, a lot to talk about in half an hour, but I think we can do this. So I'm going to start with an introduction, so you know who is on this wonderful panel, and we will start with at the end here. Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. I'm Aaron Walton. I'm the president of Cheyney University.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. I'm Brenda Allen, president of Lincoln University.
Hello there, my name is Asaph Smith. I am the class of 2025 of the illustrious Lincoln University.
Good afternoon, my name is Prince Cato. I am a senior business administration major from the nation's oldest HBCU, Cheyney University of Pennsylvania. And I graciously serve as the 11th Mr. Cheyney University. It's great to be here.
I'm Brian Marable. I played Thurgood. I'm an actor from Detroit, Michigan, and I'm also happy to be here.
All right, well, this is going to be a lively house. I appreciate that. So this is a conversation about education, and it is a conversation about institutions. And I just want to start off with a quote that we hear from Thurgood in the play. He says, "Without a ballot, a man isn't a citizen, but I knew something else. The ballot doesn't mean much without a first-class education." It's clear that Thurgood Marshall got a first-class education, and he got this first-class education at Black colleges and universities. The play emphasizes much of the importance of education. He talks about his father and the intellectual debates that they had. He talks about the teacher who called him disputatious and led him to memorize the whole US Constitution. The play starts off at Howard University, and of course he talks about his education at Lincoln University. So I want to talk about Lincoln and Cheyney. Both are neighboring universities, and as you can see, also friendly rivals. But I want to start off with a question to both President Walton and Dr. Allen. I want to ask you both about what is it about this little corner of the United States where the first HBCUs were founded, and what is the significance of that? Why are they here?
They're here to present an opportunity for individuals who would not normally have one. Number one, they reside in this corner of Pennsylvania. I don't know why, but it's a great corner to reside in. And the fact that we are neighbors is even more important. You know, people have said, well, they're rivals. We're not rivals. Brenda and I arrived the same day. And we were received by an organization that gave a reception for us. And from that day, we pledged not to be competitors, but to be friends. I don't do anything without consulting Brenda, and Brenda does nothing without consulting me. So we are lockstep in terms of our resolve to bring our students into the 21st century and give them experiences that they will need to survive this cruel world. This was particularly interesting to me today because I was a product of the 40s, 50s, and 60s and lived through it. not being able to go to the bathroom, not being able to eat at places, etc. It brought back some ugly memories today. But it also gave me joy to know that we have moved beyond some of the things that we had to deal with. We're not there yet. We've got a long way to go. But what it reminded me is that we've got to teach the folks that are coming behind us where we have come from and how we got to where we are. We can never forget the past. If you forget the past, you're destined to repeat it. So our job as college presidents is to make sure that our students remember the past, they don't live in the past, but they prepare for the future.
Amen. So when people say why Lincoln and Cheyney, I think the first thing for us to just sit with for a minute is that Cheyney, and I hope I have your years right, was started in 1837 as an institution that was educating black youth. Lincoln University started in 1854, and our rival is, we're the first degree granting historically black college. We started out as a 4-year college. Doesn't matter where we started. What's important is that we were educating people of African descent well before the emancipation of the race. And so while most black people were in bondage, here we are, just Lincoln, 4 or 5 miles across the Mason-Dixon line, opening a college just to educate African American men. And so that's a significant part, I think, of American history that's not told as frequently as it should. These are institutions of audacity, I would say, to really go against the ethos of the country at a time when we were debating as to whether or not people of African descent were even human beings. And so the significance of our founding, I think, paved the way for all the other historically black colleges that emerged after emancipation, but that because we were sort of the first step over into freedom, we had free black communities. Lincoln University was actually started by land donated from a free black community called Hensonville. So Lincoln University sits in what used to be Hensonville. And so you had black people settling, farmers, contributing to their community, but who were seeking education at the highest level. So it really just says that education, as Chief Justice Marshall says, it was probably one of the most important factors for people and human beings, in that we have two institutions that really started very early to offer this education to people of African descent. I think is just an amazing thing and something that Pennsylvania should be very, very proud of.
Absolutely. And I want to, just for the audience, just tell you a few of the people who are products of both of these institutions. Horace Mann Bond, who was himself a very wonderful educator. Gil Scott Heron. The Grimke's, who are abolitionists. Robert Nix, I don't know if any of you remember Robert Nix, who was the first black congressional representative from Pennsylvania. Larry Neal, who was a black arts movement playwright and poet. Julian Abel, the architect. Bayard Rustin. Ed Bradley. And Robert Bogle. So just think about that. This is what these two institutions have created.
And me.
And Brenda Allen, yes. Yes, thank you for that. So it's really important for us to think about how they have nurtured leadership, how they've nurtured leaders. And I want to turn now to Brian to talk about, I hope can talk about how leadership was cultivated for Thurgood, with the importance of cultivating black leadership in Thurgood's life. I mean, there were a lot of important leaders in his life, and he clearly benefited from an interaction with them.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, doing this play though, like the more you do it, and you do a script and things get a little juicier every time you read them, or things hit you differently. The one thing we're talking about education, but I also think what's really important that in his story and his life is you think about this man who grew up in a poverty situation. His dad and his mom were, they didn't make a lot of money. And his dad had the wherewithal to take his son down and to enjoy this educational, free entertainment at the courthouse. It doesn't cost anything to go sit in the court and listen to court cases. And that's, to me, that's really, and don't get me, Charlie Houston, all these people were, but his father, to me, in light of all his flaws, and, he said he was a drinker and he was angry, but he was obviously still very attentive to his son, and he spent time with him. This is something that became a hobby for both of them. And look where it took them. Something just a poor black father who was a wherewithal enough to, I'm gonna at least spend some time with my child. And I'm gonna take him to do something that, we're gonna see these cases. It ends up being entertaining. You end up becoming educated a little bit about the law. And I think it propelled him or motivated him to pursue this eventually in life. I know he decided in college, but he was already, obviously, at a very young age, interested in law and what was capable of, what you were capable of doing with the law. So we could talk about all the leaders that, that came across, him having a relationship with Langston Hughes. But what really strikes to me, and tomorrow you may ask me that and I'd give you a different answer, but what sits on my heart today is Thurgood's relationship with his father. And going to the courtroom and his father being able to, it don't cost nothing to take you down to the, maybe to take the trolley, but, they go in, and this was first class entertainment to some degree. You're being entertained, you're being educated, and look where it took him. It was that motivating.
And to your point, education comes in all forms. It doesn't have to happen at school. I think that's very important. I want to turn to the students. I want to turn to Prince and Asaph and ask you about the importance of HBCUs in cultivating Black leadership. What's been your experience at your schools, and how has this helped you become the leaders you are?
Being at Lincoln University has showed me that people like me who come from different places from across the U.S., from Baltimore, Philadelphia, from New York, New Jersey, even all the way over from Hawaii, some people from California. It doesn't dictate what you went through, it's your drive to go where you're going. When we all come together, of course, you have your things back at home, but when we all congregate together, having a mission, I come from a town where I didn't do too well in high school. I'm going for engineering. That's very hard. But having other people who come from similar backgrounds, coming from places where they were more prepared, it shows me that I can do it. And of course, coming from where I know, and also another thing is making sure that I listen to their stories as well, because they play a factor, and the notable alumni. I'm also an RA, and for Black History Month, we did a little thing where we were supposed to make note of notable alumni that aren't in the mainframes every day. And I asked the students who all come together and point out different parts, and they pointed people that I never really heard of, like, this might sound bad, but Hildreth Poindexter. I never really knew that he came from Lincoln and what he did for society. So being with these kids, my peers, it showed me a real light that we all can do great things like Thurgood Marshall. I'm sorry I pointed at you, but now I think of you as Thurgood Marshall. We're all able to achieve greatness no matter where you come from.
I would say my HBCU experience, and specifically at Cheyney, has completely changed my life. So my background is actually completely different from anything like HBCU culture. I come from a predominantly white area, which is Downingtown, about like 30 minutes from your Coatesville area. And I went to elementary school, middle school, high school, predominantly white Catholic school. So going to an HBCU was a complete culture shock. Of course, I give thanks, and I'm grateful that I did go to those schools because that taught me a lot. I did learn a lot of facts, I did learn a lot of info, but going to an HBCU taught me who I actually am. And it made me learn who I am as a person, and it helped me learn who we are as Black people. So that made me tap into myself and all that I was able to do. So of course we're born with these God-given abilities. I think once I came to an HBCU, that's when I was able to tap in. That's when I was very much able to show them.
Thank you for that. So we're in 2023, and the landscape is looking a little different these days. There's been a backlash to the idea of African American studies, to affirmative action. There is a backlash to a lot of the things that Justice Marshall succeeded in giving to us. And I'm wondering now, now that we see this backlash, what kind of education and leadership is needed right now to face these challenges? This is to all of you.
So Lincoln has, from its founding, been focused on liberal arts, focused on offering our students a rigorous classical education where content is really a vehicle for honing essential skills: communication, analytic problem solving, being able to understand yourself in relation to others. And if you really think about what was so significant about Thurgood Marshall and his ability on the court, was really his eloquence, right? So I'm a psychologist by training. I've studied a lot those doll studies. You put those dolls up. It's a lot of complication to those doll studies. Nonetheless, if you really look at what happened in those two arguments that he took to the Supreme Court, what happened in the second argument is that he went for persuasion. He left the data, he left all the stuff, because there were some holes in the doll studies, but he made a moral argument. One of the things that Lincoln was well known for in his early days was the eloquence of his men. They spent a whole lot of time just in arguments. It's called the rabble or something. They tell me about it nowadays. It left when all the women came. But anyway, that's what those men did, right? They practiced and they engaged in sort of developing and honing these essential skills. And you can see in this play the development of Thurgood Marshall and his ability to use his writing skills and his speaking skills and just his ability at persuasion is what made him so successful, I think, as a Chief Justice. And so today, I think that education still has to focus in on developing and honing those essential skills. Curriculum and areas of study come and go, but your ability to tool and retool, to be able to address problems really calls for you to be really very strong in your intellectual prowess, I guess is the thing. You have to be interpersonally savvy in order to really work across a lot of different groups of people. And I think that is reflected in what Thurgood Marshall was able to do across his lifetime. And I think those remain the essential ingredients for creating leadership today, which is why we continue to be focused in on that liberal arts education and that focus on developing and honing those important essential skills.
At Cheyney, our vision is to become the premier educational model of excellence in academics, character, and social responsibility, because we have to have all three of those components to have a complete person. Our model is somewhat different than the traditional model. I came out of business and industry after 40 years of corporate. So I'm not a traditional educator. I was a business person. And I see education as a business. And the model we're putting in at Cheyney emphasizes the importance of public-private partnerships where our students get exposed to professions and occupations that normally black and brown individuals are not exposed to. And it's all about exposure. I belong to an organization called the 100 Black Men, and our motto is what they see is what they'll be. We have to see folks that look like us doing the most modern and forward-thinking things in order for us to emulate that. So our motto is exposure, trying to get our students to as many places, to see as many things, to have as many exposures as they can so they can make choices and not be pigeonholed. I think in many years ago, we were pigeonholed into a couple professions. We were on the railroads and we taught. That's not all there is to America. We have to be part of the mainstream. And we have to begin to think about intergenerational wealth. I came up in poverty. I'm not in poverty today. Why? Because my dad had a second grade education, my mother had 8th grade education. They emphasized we would go to school, period. I'm the last of 12 kids. And most of us went to school on that. So I know that our current state does not dictate where we will be. And that's what we try to explain to our students, is that just because you came from a challenged background and where you are today, you can't imagine what awaits you if you prepare yourselves. So our job is to prepare our students for the future. And that's exactly what we're doing.
Thank you for that. I know we just have a few more minutes, so I'd actually like to include the audience in this discussion about education. Mika, are you here with a, great, good. So what I'd like to do is to talk about Black education, leadership, and what kind of education is needed, what kind of education and leadership is needed for today. Prince and Asaph, if you want to start, and then as if anyone out here has any questions or any comments, if you can raise your hand, and Mika will get a microphone to you. All right?
So for what type of education is needed today, I'll just base it off of previous professors I've had. I would say the best professors were the ones that were disruptors, the ones that were able to go outside of the traditional roles, and the ones that were able to work with the class knowing each and every individual person had different goals. So whatever that is, you teach them according to that, because they're very emotionally intelligent and they know your needs and your wants, and they're able to apply that. So ones that was very able to connect with the students, those are the ones that actually were able to make an impact, a very big impact on myself. Because moving forward, those are the ones that I actually ran back to. Those are the ones I have connections with, even dating back all the way into elementary school, because these were teachers that were not afraid to speak up. They were not afraid to disrupt the same way every single class was ran. I would definitely say those are the educators that we need.
For me, I'll also go with the professors that I have so far. The ones that I think we need the most is the educators that will never quit. There are some educators that I've had in my past academic career that you can clearly see they don't really care. They'll let you do what you want to do, they'll give you a grade and go about your day. But a professor specifically that stands out, he is not the kindest person. He's very type of person to sit there, if you have a question, well, go read the textbook. Go look for it, and if you have any more questions after I did what you told me to, I'll answer your questions. That was the person I needed a lot, because I wasn't the type of person to really read the textbook. I would just figure it out and then ask a person, and then they'll tell me. He cared, because he took time out of his day to give me a textbook, and he was like, read it. I think that we need that the most, because that shows that you are capable with a push to do what you need to do in life. He was very difficult talking to, but he showed me that I am capable of greater things as long as I believe in myself and put in the effort and show that I care. And he'll care as well. He'll meet me halfway.
I have to say, he sounds a little, in terms of his gruff caring, like Charles Hamilton Houston, you know? So I'm just looking out here to see if anybody has any comments or questions. We can talk about education, but we can also talk about the wonderful performance that Brian provided for us. Mika, I see somebody over here.
I've got it.
Okay, great.
Fantastic performance and excellent panel. You all are talking about educating leaders, and you talked about business, and you got engineers on the stage. Where does the arts fit into all this? How has a connection to the arts, whether it's theater, music, or something else, helped you all in your growth, either into intellectuals that you are or into leaders?
So I believe that every form of education has a form of art to it, because art is graceful, it has finesse. Martial arts, it's a fighting art, still fighting, but there's an art. literacy, writing, there's an art to it. I believe that all of the stuff that we've done, especially in Lincoln University, has a gracefulness to it. The educators that I've had, they show that making sure that you, how do I put this? Making sure that you create something which takes a lot of time of thinking, creativity, helps you improve and do greater things. So, drawing, for example. You have digital arts, you also have a way of creating plans and architecture and stuff like that. Thurgood Marshall, when he went to Lincoln University, he never really felt, well, I can't really speak for you, but from the stories I've heard for Thurgood Marshall, he was more of a mischievous kind of guy. He also did not come in with the thought that he came out with. So seeing that and seeing that the literature arts took him somewhere was very impressive for me. And with that being said, I have an appreciation for art because art takes you different places. For engineering, it's a masterpiece in art to create a knob this small that can change something to make it work 50% more functional. So when it comes to art, it's in everything. And with that being said, I have an appreciation for art.
All the forms of expression are important. The arts, the sciences, the humanities, they all, because they give everyone an opportunity to express who they are themselves. It's important that we continue to expose individuals to arts, etc. We wouldn't have Maya Angelou. We have met, so many of the folks have meant so much to us because of, we wouldn't have a poet laureate. So those are the people that really can deep deal within inside and express who they are as individuals and are able to express what they have experienced in life, which is important to all of us.
Okay, great.
Hi, so I go to Cheyney. See you, go Wolves. And to piggyback off the last question that the panel said about like what kind of educators do we need and which ones work the best, I think, so I'm a sophomore at Cheyney. Last semester was my first semester at Cheyney, so I'm a transfer. And my first semester I felt very comfortable with the staff and the professors that I had. I'm a psychology major, so I want to do children's trauma or family therapy. That's the goal. For brown kids. Shout out to the brown kids if you need, over here. And one thing that I will say is that the Cheyney professors really care. Cheyney is a very small school. It's not like Lincoln. But we're small, but the professors care a lot. If you miss a couple classes or something, they'll like email you personally, like, are you okay? Like, is there something you need to talk about? Like, come to my office, like, here's a Zoom link if you don't feel comfortable coming to class or like whatever, talk. And I think that's the one good thing about Cheyney is that it's a small school, but we all feel, or I feel very comfortable with the professors that I have, especially psychology professors. They are very caring. They want to make sure that you're doing it right. If you're confused, if you need to take a couple extra minutes to like have a question be repeated or anything, they're very good with, we're not moving on until you get this question. We're not moving on until, you understand it, because they're teaching the future. And I think it's important for people to be patient. It's important for people that look like us to care about us. And that's one thing that I love about going to HBCU is that I feel cared for. I feel like the professors want us to do well. So those are the educators that I think we need in the future. The ones that care about us, the ones that look like us, the ones who understand what we've gone through. And those are the ones that teach the best. And yeah.
Thank you for that. It is actually 4:15, so we have to say goodbye to this wonderful panel. And I want to thank everybody for participating. And I also want to thank the people who spoke up. It's very clear that, to me, that Lincoln and Cheyney are doing their job. There are some wonderful people here. So thank you, thank you, Dr. Walton, I'm sorry, did somebody,
Burning comment here.
okay.
We just wanted to say, we go to Lincoln University back here. We wanted to highlight our president, Brenda Allen. We need more leaders like her because I remember post-COVID, she was my Black psychology teacher as a president, and to me, that was exemplary of what Black excellence looks like, what woman leadership looks like. And as far as it goes, when we talk about student body, I think that it is our mission and our job to point out the leaders before us so that we can amplify what it means to be Black excellence for the up and coming generation. So I wanted to definitely just acknowledge her and give her flowers because she is literally. Even when we don't see what's going on behind the scenes and everything, we just wanted to highlight how much we appreciate you and everything that you do. Even just as a student, just having you as a professor and telling us about all the things that we see. We got to hear about this right today, but we already had the knowledge of this before we got here. So I just wanted to say thank you. Thank you to all of the students from Lincoln and from Cheyney who came and who care about their universities. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Thank you for that, and that is a great way to end this conversation. And actually, I hope we don't end it. I hope we get to continue this at another play. So thank you, thank you. Thank you, President Walton. Thank you, Dr. Allen. Thank you, Asaph. Thank you, Prince. And thank you very much to Brian.